Lesson 7 is talking about simple interest. And simple interest is something that everybody is going to have experience with. If you plan on buying a house someday or a car, or if you want to put money into a bank, all of those involve simple interest. So this part is really important, and it is something you will use in your life. Let's define some of the important vocabulary words. Interest. Interest is how much money you're going to pay or the amount of free money you're going to get for using money. So when you are buying a car or buying a house, you take out a loan from a bank. Now, the bank isn't going to give you that money for free. They're not wanting to lose out on making money. So the way they make money is by charging simple interest or interest. So basically, it's a fee. It's a rental fee for the use of their money over time. Now, it also works out in your favor when you decide to put money in a checking account. That money doesn't sit in a bank account getting dust in this little cubby that says, "This is for Mrs. Banka." That's not how banks work. They credit your account on a computer, and then they use that money to help do the daily business of the bank. And they pay you for it in terms of simple interest. So interest would be money paid, something like a loan, or something you earn for putting money into a bank account. Now, simple interest, there is something called compound interest, but we're only talking about simple interest. Simple interest is money paid or earned only on the principal. So basically, you're paying a fee or you're earning money only on the amount of money that you deposit, which is the principal. Compound interest means you're going to pay interest not only on the amount that you borrow or you deposit into the bank, but also you pay interest on the interest that you've already accrued. That's crazy. So simple interest is money earned on a savings account or an investment. It could be also money that you pay for borrowing money, like a car loan or a house. Principal is what you start with. It's the amount of money you deposit in the bank account or it's the amount of money that you borrow. And this is the equation that we use all the time to find the amount of interest. It's called IPERT. It is that the interest is found by taking the principal or the amount of money you deposit or borrowed times the interest rate per year. We write it as a decimal just like we did in that percent equation. And then we multiply it by the time in years that money earns interest. So times in years. And rate, percent rate, is in a decimal. Those you need to remember. Okay. Example 1, we're going to find the interest. We put $500 in a saving account. It earns 3% simple interest per year. Two-part question. What is the interest earned after 3 years, and what is the balance after 3 years? Okay, we know we need to find the interest. We know that we need to find the principal, the rate, and the time. We're going to take a moment to identify these different parts of the IPERT equation. We do not know the interest, so this is going to stay an I. The principal is the amount that we deposited into our bank account, which would be the $500. The rate is the amount of simple interest, the percent, and it's 3%, but we are going to write it as a decimal. If you put 3 in there, the calculator is going to think that you're earning 300% interest. I don't know about you, but that would be phenomenal, but it wouldn't be smart on the bank's part because they'd be paying you 3 times what your money's worth per year. So make sure you convert that percentage to a decimal. All right, and then time has to be in years. We are letting that money sit in an account for 3 years. All right, so to find part A, it's asking us what's the interest. This is where that IPERT equation comes into play. So I equals principal times rate times time. We started off with $500. We're just substituting in the information we know. It is earning 3% simple interest, so we're going to write that 3% as a decimal. And that money is hanging out in the account for 3 years. We're going to take 500 times 3% written as a decimal, which is 3/100ths, times 3. And when we multiply it, we get interest of $45. Basically what that means is we deposit $500 in an account. We earn $45 for doing absolutely nothing. That's the bank paying us for using that $500 over the course of 3 years. The second part, B, is asking what is the balance. So balance is how much money you have altogether. So to find the balance, you take, which is B, your principal, the amount that we started with, plus your interest. So principal plus interest. We started off with $500. We earned $45 for just having that money hang out there for 3 years. So my balance would be $545 after 3 years. Example 2 is a little different. This time we're trying to find the annual interest rate. So we have a problem. We're going to take a second and make sure that we identify all parts of the IPERT equation before we start solving it. We put $1,000 in an account. It earns $100 in simple interest. Notice, this is not a percent. So this is not the interest rate. It sits there, that money sits there for 4 years. And we're trying to find that annual interest rate. We're trying to find the R. So I'm going to put an R there. Let's process back through this problem. We put $1,000 in an account. So we're starting with $1,000. That's my principal. It earns $100 in simple interest. That means it's the free money that we earned. That's our interest. And it's sitting there for 4 years. We're going to solve the equation, but first let's start by writing out IPERT, and we're going to substitute in what we know. From the problem, we know that our interest is 100. We also know that our principal is 1,000. We do not know our rate, so it's going to stay in R. And we know that the time is 4 years. This is a solving equation problem. So I'm going to draw my line down the middle, and I'm going to look on this side of the equal sign. Do I have some math that I can do? Yes, I can take 1,000 times 4 to get 4,000 R. And then drop down my 100 on the left-hand side. I'm trying to solve for R, so I'm going to isolate it by dividing by 4,000. So those won out. R is left. And then 100 divided by 4,000 is 0.025 or 25 thousandths. Now, remember, when we plug in rate into the equation, we actually have to change it to a decimal, and rate is really a percentage. So there's one extra step. Move that decimal 2 places over, and we know that this particular account is charging 2.5% interest. Okay, this time we're going to find the amount of time. A bank offers 3 saving accounts. The simple interest rate is determined by the principal. How long does it take an account to earn, or an account with a principal of $800 to earn $100 in interest? All right, this is a real life situation because a lot of banks work this way. If you deposit more money, you're going to earn more money. You're going to earn a higher interest rate. We're starting with $800. We're looking for the level of account that would be. So 1.5% interest rate would be for principals of less than $500. That's not what we need. 2% is from $500 to $5,000, and if you want to earn the highest of 3%, then you need to deposit more than $5,000. So 2% is our interest rate. Just like we have this whole time, let's start off by identifying the parts of our simple interest equation. Okay, so we start off, our principal in the problem is $800. And then it's saying that we're going to earn $100 in interest. So $100 in interest is not a percentage, that's the amount of money that we earn. So 100 is going to be my interest. And then my rate is 2%, but we're going to write it as a decimal, so 2/100ths. And we're trying to find the time, so that's going to say a t. Write out my IPERT equation. Substitute in what I know. Interest is 100, principal is 800, rate written as a decimal is 2/100ths, time is t. We're going to multiply 800 times 2/100ths, and we get 16 t. 100 stays on that side. Solve for t by dividing by 16. 100 divided by 16 would be 6.25 or 6 1/4. Now remember the label for time is in years. So it's going to take 6 1/4 years for a $800 principal to earn $100 in interest. Last example, this time we're finding the amount paid on a loan, or how much interest at the end you're going to accrue plus your principal. So when you're done paying a loan, you don't just pay the interest, you pay the principal and the interest. So this is kind of that final step. You borrow $600 to buy a violin. The simple interest rate is 15%. Holy cow. You pay off the loan after 5 years. So that $600 violin, how much is it going to actually cost you when it's all said and done? So this is a small example of what a house payment would look like. So if you buy a $100,000 house, you're really not paying just $100,000. You're paying $100,000 plus whatever interest you have to pay over the course of your 30-year loan. Sometimes you can pay as much as double your house's value over that course of 3 years. So here we go. We're going to start off by writing down the pieces of information we need to find. We borrow $600, that's the amount we start with, or our principal. Simple interest rate is 15%. We're going to write it as a decimal. 5 years, so our time is 5. We're going to need to find out the interest, but then we have an extra step. So start by writing down your equation. I equals interest equals principal times rate times time. Substitute in those variables that we found. 600 times 15/100ths times 5 gives you an interest of $450. So that's how much the lender makes on you borrowing their $600 for 5 years. To find the total amount that you pay after the loan, you got to pay that $600 back plus the $450 in interest. So that $600 violin is costing you $1,050. This is that principal plus interest part that we talked about when we were finding the balance of an account. Okay, that does it for this video.